The show is about many women around us who are like that. Do you feel more than other people feel? And that was a very, what do you say, uncomfortable question. I said, wait a minute, why would you say that? ज़्यादातर ये सुनेंगे लोगों को कहते हुए कि यार मैं बाहर इतना जूझ के आया हूँ, घर पे मत करो. It is our responsibility कि और कुछ नहीं कर सकते, awareness तो कर सकते हैं visual medium से. So I am not doubtful at all. I've never been nervous about releases. You've done your bit. हर वक्त ये pressure रहता है कि कुछ तो करना है, कुछ तो करना है, कुछ तो करना है. I'm not being, productive about something. But sometimes कुछ नहीं करना.
We are with someone who needs absolutely no introduction, Divya Dutta, and we're going to talk about a show that deserves to be talked about, Chiraiya, and why I think you will tell us over the course of this conversation. We have had very few mainstream shows, films, whatever we want to call, that tend to talk about things that make people uncomfortable because हमारा setup ही वैसा है society का. And Chiraiya is something that does that while not being exclusive, not thinking that it is catering to a niche or something like that. What drew you to this story and to Kamlesh, your character?
First of all, I think it's a show for every kind of audience, as you rightly said. One feels with the subject that, arey, ये सिर्फ औरतें देखेंगी, that's how it's going to be. No, but I don't think so. The way every slice of life has been sprinkled into it, and the roles the men have in this show, I think it's once you sit and watch it, it's a watch for everyone. How I got into it, I think I heard the story from Divya Sharma, the writer of the show. It's amazing, a show like this having been written by a guy. And so I thought I've just come for like a small chotu narration. But he just opened his laptop and he started the first episode. And, initially I was like, arey, shuru ho gaya? Matlab, are we already into narration? But 5 minutes into it, and he said, end of episode 1. I said, can I hear episode 2? And then when we finished 6 episodes, I didn't get to know. It was intriguing. It was gripping. It was a story that I thought should be told, and told this way.
Yeah.
Where you're not preaching anyone, where you're not saying, ye kar do, wo kar do, nothing. It's somebody's story. It's her story, Kamlesh's story, her family's story, her relationship with her sister-in-law. It could be any household. It could be any woman. It could be relatable. So I found it extremely relatable. I thought it was a beautiful graph. I thought it was something that needed to be spoken about. And hence I think I'm so glad that it came to me.
Actors often say that they don't judge their characters because that's the first thing you don't want to do. Even if you can't relate to it, you want to find pieces there. How did you not judge Kamlesh initially? Because I think ideologically, you are closer to Pooja than to Kamlesh. So, wo kaise raha on how to get to this character and play her in a way that she comes across as a human being and not as a caricature?
Because the show is not about Divya Dutta. The show is about Kamlesh. The show is about many women around us who are like that. I'm representing those who have a very safe zone to live in, a family who's extremely protective, who's extremely loved, who's everything that she says is heard. Uski har kahi baat suni jati hai. And then you have, and you condition to a certain thought process that this is, मैंने बहुत अच्छे से सब संभाल के रखा हुआ है. And then one day your foundation is shaken up because you feel there are certain, cracks in your foundation. And so I guess I had to leave the Vya side because I could question a lot of things being Kamlesh. But I think the journey that she takes is a journey, I think, of every woman, because all of us, somewhere or the other, have had a setback, have had a crisis where you rise above things that are your comfort zone and go ahead and work it out for yourselves. That, I think, is Kamlesh. That is a Kamlesh in all of us.
Yeah.
So I think it was in those ways very relatable.
Kamlesh, आपने बहुत सही बात बोली that she is comfortable, she is loved, she is protected, but she also feels कि मुझे ये भारी बातें समझ में नहीं आती. That people around me in this family are so well accomplished, particularly her father-in-law and everyone. Could you relate to that as when you started your career as almost a teenager you were, right? Did you feel a little out of place ever? Was that relatable part?
Of course.
Yeah.
I felt out of place. No, but if you're talking about Kamlesh, what you say कि बातें समझ नहीं आती, she's very happy in that that thing of ना समझना कुछ, क्योंकि ऐसा ही है.
उसके लिए वो places वाली चीज है कि
so she's fine. She's happy reading the last page of the newspaper. She is happy not using the loo for 14 hours. ठीक है, and she seeks pride in that कि हम तो 14 घंटे रोक लेते हैं. तो वो अलग है. For me, finding my place, yeah, I mean it is what do you say? It's a journey in itself.
Yeah.
Along the way, you realize what you want, as does she.
Right.
That along the way, as life happens to you, is when that clarity of thought comes to you कि मुझे क्या चाहिए. You find your niche, you find your calling, you know what your next step should be. I think somewhere that commonality happens in I would say a person like Kamlesh, a person like Divya Dutta.
That is the common thing.
Yes.
I think you touched a very nice point that she takes pride in all those things of holding, you know, your pee for 14 hours and all that. And हमने ये किया भी है that we have glorified suffering for women. That it is like if you're doing this, it's a great sacrifice that you're making. It's a great step you're making. And of course, some sacrifices are good. Some suffering is good. But I think it is imbalanced to that gender a lot. And it's not exclusive to Indian society, but world over, right?
But you've not seen the other side. So when you've not seen the other side, you're very complacent with what you're surrounded by. If she has seen her mother be like that, if she's seen her grandmother like that, then that's the way to be. And that's the way she's been brought up. That's her conditioning. That's the normal for her. But when you see the other side, when you go out, and there's a scene where she asks questions, where she says, is that not normal? I mean, she raising a question, is that normal to ask a question like this? So she's learning from that, beyond her comfort. When you get out is when you know, beyond your conditionings, when you unlearn, when you say, okay, this is my point of view, but what is your point of view? Let me hear. हम सुनते ही नहीं किसी को.
Right.
हम अपनी ही थोपते हैं कि सुनो भाई, मुझे लगता है ये ठीक है, और अपनों पे ज्यादा थोपते हैं.
बिल्कुल.
हक होता है, हक से थोपते हैं कि भाई हक है तो बोलेंगे. तो वो जो एक अपना एक थोपना होता है, उसकी भी एक सीमा होती है जो हमें पता है. इट्स अ वेरी थिन लाइन. That are you guiding somebody, or are you imposing yourself on someone?
Right. What was the one thing that you had to let go of, some conditioning over the years, that you felt कि this, because we all are brought up with some of the other things, that you had to let go of कि नहीं, ये शायद जो मैंने इतने साल सोचा समझा वो ठीक नहीं था. Was there something like that?
So I who did I meet recently? He said, do you feel more than other people feel? And that was a very what do you say, uncomfortable question. I said, wait a minute, why would you say that? He said, it's written all over your face. So I said, maybe it helps me as an actor. Maybe I observe, maybe I'm more sensitive to things. I thought when you're in a business of movies, you got to be matter of fact in many things. And I thought I'm not very, what do you say, fitting into this emotionally. But gradually you realize कि सब अपना काम कर रहे हैं, सब जूझ रहे हैं अपने अपने काम से. उसको personally लेना, उसको सब करना ज़रूरत नहीं है. I think it helped me so much when I stopped reacting and I started responding. So that really helped.
That helped.
Yeah.
I'll come to one of the tenets of the show is that as Indians, which is very strange to me, is we are confrontational outside our houses. बाहर हम किसी से भी लड़ लेंगे. घर पे लड़ाइयाँ काम की बातों पे नहीं होती हैं. No, like we do not want to touch the uncomfortable subjects, which is what one of the things here also is, that we will also always brush things under the carpet. And I think that is because roles भी हैं defined लोगों के यहाँ पे हमारे यहाँ, as in other cultures as well. Do you think that has somewhat held back change over the years?
See, there's a very deep-rooted conditioning here. And when you talk about this, आप ज़्यादातर ये सुनेंगे लोगों को कहते हुए कि यार मैं बाहर इतना जूझ के आया हूँ, घर पे मत बोलो यार. And there are certain issues, you are right. I wouldn't say confronting is a very strong word, but एक common dialogue होना, एक conversation होना. आप सिंपली भी देख लो कि अगर मुझे आपकी कोई बात नहीं पसंद आई और मैंने आपको नहीं बोला, वो 10 दिन, 15 दिन, 12 दिन के बाद वो बहुत एस्केलेट होगी। फिर अगर मैं नहीं भी बोलूंगी वो बढ़ती जाएगी। बजाय उसके अगर मैं आकर आपको कहूँ, यू नो व्हाट, मुझे ना ये थोड़ा सा ऐसा लगा, मे बी you will not change probably, or you might change, but there will definitely be an effort to change because you're aware.
And there's a conversation that you said.
Yes, there's a transparency in conversation. You know what I said I don't like. So even if you take half a step, and by half a step I would mean even if you are aware of it, you will definitely take half a step ahead. ये जरूरी नहीं कि आपको अरे आज मैं बदल के दिखाऊंगा, ऐसा नहीं होता है। ओवरनाइट नहीं होता, ग्रेजुअल होता है, लेकिन शुरुआत तो चाहिए ना।
राइट। एंड आल्सो you mentioned one very nice thing is that if it is not addressed, it escalates to a point where one person will erupt and then suddenly it feels like why is he or she reacting
क्या हुआ भाई,
इतनी सी
ये
बात
तो रोज की तो बात थी,
इतनी सी बात पे इतना ज्यादा क्यों ड्रामा हो रहा है। वो जो आता है they don't get where it is coming from, right?
Yes.
And which what happens is it dilutes what is being talked about because बात आपकी टोन पे आ जाएगी या बात आपके रिएक्शन पे आएगी, not at what you reacted on. That is I think it happens in every society, right?
True.
And it dilutes what is being talked about. I have this question to you that हमारे यहाँ, and it is not just a thing of India, or I'm not talking about the country as a whole, but in societies, घर की इज्जत पे बात ना आए, इसलिए a lot of things are brushed under. How does one even address that, do you think? Do you think it can be addressed through a show itself?
You know how powerful a medium, the visual medium is, especially I would say the OTTs, where with I think it's right in your households.
Right.
You are watching it at your convenience, at your given time. Maybe you're binge watching, maybe whatever. I think we as people, it is our responsibility कि और कुछ नहीं कर सकते, अवेयरनेस तो कर सकते हैं विजुअल मीडियम से। इतना सशक्त मीडियम है ये कि आप कुछ भी देखेंगे, आप बच्चों को भी तस्वीरें दिखाते हैं, आप उनको यू नो दिस इज दैट वन, बजाय कि आप सिर्फ उनको पढ़ के कुछ सुनाएं। अगर आप दिखाते हैं, it remains. For me, my earliest memories would be of that first film that I saw. I'll never forget that.
Which was it?
It was Mr. Natwarlal. Amitabh Bachchan. And so I'm saying वो चीजें आपके जहन में बैठती हैं. And you don't necessarily have to go saying, okay, I strongly believe this and that. You're telling a story of a woman. Now pick what affected you, what impacted you the most. Maybe you have something different to pick up. But the underlying question is that there has to be an awareness of to many people who are not even aware कि ये गलत है।
Right.
तो ऐसे ही तो है,
यही तो
होता है भाई, इसमें क्या प्रॉब्लम है, इतना क्यों शोर मचा रहे हो। Of course, the societal pressures that you're talking about, कि घर की इज्जत and all that stuff, कोई कहेगा, कोई कुछ लोग क्या कहेंगे, तो वो है, उसकी वो भी कंडीशनिंग है। हर चीज हमारे अंदर कंडीशनड है, मेरे अंदर भी है। I was earlier talking about maybe superstitions.
Right.
We've grown up with them. We are logical, educated minds. लेकिन मैं आज भी काली बिल्ली देखूंगी तो पीछे जाऊंगी, मुझे आज भी कोई पीछे से आवाज मारता है, मैं वापस जाती हूँ, या पीछे से आवाज क्यों मारी। अब इसका कोई लॉजिक है नहीं, है
इनग्रेन्ड है हमारे अंदर, वो
इनग्रेन्ड है हमारे अंदर। लेकिन अगर मैं अवेयर होके कहूँ कि अच्छा आज तुमने पीछे से आवाज मार दी, मैं फिर भी जाऊंगी, लेट मी सी व्हाट हैपेंस, वो एक स्टेप तो लो।
राइट।
इस डीकंडीशनिंग के लिए कुछ तो करो।
You touched upon a very nice point, is that OTT is in our living rooms, and which is what India has changed. The viewing habits have changed is because streaming began as a very personal thing. आप अपने phone पे, अपने laptop पे देखेंगे, as opposed to cinema and TV, which were communal viewing. That TV families are watching together, cinema 500 people are watching together. OTT was supposed to be one person watching on a laptop. That has come to our television.
It's personalized now.
It's personalized while being. You can watch it with people. You're watching
True. It can be both.
Yeah, and shows like Chiraiya, I think, are to be watched by both the audiences.
Absolutely.
Alone as well as with people. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a show, I think, which everyone can watch together and should watch together, because there is going to be some emotional stirring here.
So you think this is for family watching, right?
Of course it's a family watch. I mean, of course, it's a subject that needs to be tackled and seen with sensitivity. So of course, I mean, your kids and everything, no, but otherwise I think of course it should be watched by
how do we
everyone.
fight that conditioning कि कुछ अगर sensitive subject पे बना है तो वो साथ देखने का नहीं है, because that is a conditioning that audiences have had and also makers कि हम ऐसा बनाएंगे तो family audiences के लिए नहीं होगा, large reach नहीं होगा. Thankfully that is changing now.
देखिए, जब शुरुआत हुई थी फिल्मों की तो तब 2 फूल दिखाते थे कि वो किस कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, वही होता था,
यही होता था.
फिर अब जब हम स्टोरीज करते हैं तो उसमें रियलिज्म आ गया है. उसमें किस है, उसमें 2 फूल दिखाएंगे तो लोग कहेंगे ये देखो क्या दिखा रहे हैं. करेक्ट. जब आप किसी के साथ, बड़े के साथ बैठते थे और अगर कुछ सीन आ गया तो कोई उठ के चला जाता था, कोई कुछ करता था, इन समथिंग एज रियल एज दैट. लेकिन कुछ टाइम के बाद वो ऑकवर्डनेस थोड़ा ठीक हो गई, नॉर्मलाइज हो गई, कि क्योंकि वो हर कहीं आपको वो रियलिज्म दिख रहा है कि वो इट वाजंट अ वन टाइम वंडर कि वो एक चीज में था. अब उसे जो चीज जैसी है उसको वैसा कहा जा रहा है स्टोरी टेलर्स के द्वारा. सो इट्स नॉर्मलाइजिंग, सो पीपल आर सिटिंग एंड वाचिंग टुगेदर. एंड व्हेन इट्स अ सब्जेक्ट लाइक दिस व्हिच इज अबाउट अ फैमिली, व्हाई शुड इट नॉट बी सीन बाय अ फैमिली टुगेदर?
Talking about family, Kamlesh stands up against hers and it is a big deal for her because उसके लिए family ही सब कुछ है. I know the answer to this, but I want to hear your POV. Can love for the family exist while you are standing up against them?
But the love can never cease to exist. How can you say love चला गया? Liking जा सकती है. पसंद आप किसी को शायद ना करें, प्यार कैसे नहीं करेंगे? मुझे आपकी फलां चीज नहीं अच्छी लगी, पर आप तो मुझे अच्छे लगते हो ना. आप मेरे साथ बड़े हुए हैं, आपके साथ मेरी शादी हुई है, आप मेरी बहन हैं, आप मेरी माँ हैं. मुझे शायद आपकी कुछ क्वालिटीज बिल्कुल नापसंद हो, लेकिन प्यार तो मैं आपको फिर भी करती हूँ.
Also, you will stand up against people who you in a family when you really love them. Otherwise, अगर आप नहीं करते हैं तो शायद आप इतना एफर्ट भी नहीं करेंगे उनको बदलने का, right?
I think what I find amazingly wonderful about this show is that a woman stands up for someone, not from her house who she has immense love for, but for a woman she's actually kind of competitive with. That is a very amazing point that brings in here, which says that it's not the love, you leave the love aside,
right?
You stand up for what is right.
Pink film आई थी almost a decade ago. It addressed consent in cinema. Now we are talking about consent within marriage, जो एक इतना सेंसिटिव सब्जेक्ट है कि लोग बात करना ही पसंद नहीं करते. Do you think now what do you think it is? It's too late or is it about time? What do you think?
It's never too late.
Never too late.
And it's definitely about time. And I think cinema has been saying its stories. And you do take away things. But I think for an OTT, something like this coming up, where yes, the subject is not brought up, but somebody has to bring that awareness and say, don't normalize something like this. Just talk about it. It's not a norm that you have to follow. It's not मतलब अगर मुझे पता ही नहीं है कि मुझे ऐसे करना है तो मुझे सही गलत कैसे मालूम पड़ेगा? अगर मुझे कोई आकर बताए कि सुन ये गलत है, ये सही है. Me as an actor coming in the industry, making 50 mistakes, falling, getting up again, you find those wonderful people who tell you, अगर आप ऐसा करोगे अपने करियर में. I remember I had taken up 20 odd films, right, because there was a time when I didn't have any, and then suddenly I was offered so many, I took them all. Then one fine day I went to Aditya Chopra just to meet and have a cup of chai. We had just finished Aja Nachle, and I was very excited, and this is my limited word. I'm just giving you a parallel.
Please.
Correct? So I went up to him and said, listen, I signed 20 films. No response came from there. I said, aren't you excited for me? He said, is there a dearth of work for you or something, right, financially or something? I was very taken aback. I said, no. So he said, then why are you signing up so many films? You're a very good actor. Why don't you leave a legacy behind? Now, I didn't think it that way. And it hit me hard. Now, it was my choice. Do I listen to him? Or do I continue making my money and signing those 20 films and going ahead? Now, there was a lot at stake.
Of course.
Correct? But I went back. The films that I hadn't started, I returned the signing amounts. And from then on, I think I only did stuff that I enjoyed. That was the stand I took. And this is the stand Kamlesh takes.
Right.
There has to be something at stake for you to take that big jump, that big leap.
And like Kamlesh, that must have made you unpopular as well, right?
No, I don't think I was ever unpopular. It takes time for people to say ये कुछ अलग आया, लेकिन उसको हजम करने को थोड़ा टाइम लगता है, लेकिन नापसंद करना, हाँ, I think that's a very strong word. No.
Why I asked is because the only relatability factor I have is when I'm doing, let's say, a story which needs a greater impact. I am more nervous about my responsibility towards it. I said, इसमें मुझे कहीं भी गुंजाइश नहीं छोड़नी है. Because it needs that attention. That is what my question was, that are you trying to be a little more than what you would readily be, or are you always your 110%?
I'm always my 110%. But there's always a role that requires a little more.
Yeah.
And a little more responsibility, a little more, what do you say, sensitivity. Even though I think I do it with all my roles, I think this one was something that really required it more.
Was it more tiring and taxing as well, emotionally speaking? I mean, all roles are, because you are inhabiting another person, but this is so sensitive, and so the graph of that character is so huge. Was it more challenging than you?
The good thing about playing Kamlesh was that you start on a very different level in her graph. You see her as very endearing.
Yeah.
You see her as somebody who's very naive. And you see her, those little things that will bring you a smile on your face. You relate to her. She's one of you. And then comes that graph, which is the difficult one. And I think because मुझे वो breathers मिलते गए बीच में, and the director had also planned it very well, that the heavy scenes or the intense scenes that he knew are going to take a lot from me, he kind of balanced it every day with something light.
Right.
So I was able to live both sides of Kamlesh in a day, throughout, and I would give it to the director for doing that.
That's very good planning also for the like for the well-being of the actor, I would say.
Yes,
because that's important. You can't be shooting intense scenes days and days in a row.
I've done that too.
Yeah, you've done that too.
Yes.
And do you prefer that to this, or this to that?
I mean, you don't need to answer that. वो हो जाता है, logistics कई बार workout नहीं करते, आपको करना पड़ता है. I've done that, like in 3-4 films. It takes its toll.
It takes its toll. And how do you fight that? Like once you're done, what is your process to get out of something which is so heavy?
Different ways. You have to unwind. You have to take a little break to let the character get out as smoothly as it came in. So yeah, I mean, you need to chill, you need to take a break, you need to listen to music. I stay with kids, the whole energy changes.
Yeah.
And I meet friends, I watch a movie, I do all that. And there's something very beautiful called nothingness. You need to do that as well. That's a very underutilized concept. जहाँ में हर वक्त ये pressure रहता है कि कुछ तो करना है, कुछ तो करना है, कुछ तो करना है. I'm not being productive about something, but sometimes कुछ नहीं करना है. एंड उसका एक अपना अच्छा लेवल है आपको फ्रेश करने का.
वो हमने खुद पे प्रेशर डाल दिया है कुछ करने का हर वक्त.
Yeah, because we are always running, so we feel, am I productive? Was I productive today? So my little niece is telling me, कभी आ रही हो, कभी जा रही हो. So I'm like, yeah, मैं कभी आ रही हूँ, कभी जा रही हूँ. It's been a very productive day, yes. But then I also give equal importance to that little nothingness that you have sometimes. You need that.
Like I said, this show talks about consent, and within the marriage itself and even outside that. Having been in the industry for like 3 decades now, do you think stories of consent within the industry and outsiders are undertold? Because sometimes women don't even know themselves if they've been wronged.
That's exactly the point. A story like this should be told. That वो जो awareness कि हम कब से बात कर रहे हैं, वो it's not only for men, it's also for women. They don't know better. They don't know कि ऐसा होता है. इस दीवार के beyond क्या है वो हमें नहीं पता है. जब आप बताते हैं तो I think it kind of, you got to hold a hand. You got to show that sisterhood somewhere and say, hey, listen, you're not alone. There's somebody hearing you out. There's somebody listening to you. वो बड़ा ज़रूरी है कहना किसी को कि आप अकेले नहीं. You know, sometimes in a चार दीवारी, a woman feels ये मेरे साथ ही हो रहा है सिर्फ. इसलिए मैं किसी को ना बोलूं, इसलिए मैं चुप रहूं. बट जब आपको पता चलता है कि ये सिर्फ आपके साथ नहीं हो रहा है, ये बहुत जगह हो रहा है, it kind of gives you the strength to speak out. Not speak out with this, but speak out and say, listen, this is what I'm feeling.
And you rightly said about you need that sisterhood. You need people standing with you, women standing with you, who have had similar shared experiences, if nothing else, and similar
Sure.
lives, which
Absolutely.
I think I would never understand that. Even I can try to empathize, but I can't live in your reality that way. As a parting note, who would you look forward to this show reaching? Of course, everyone is the answer, but who would probably be you the most happy that if they're talking about it? Women who don't know that this should be talked about, men who never even realized that this was wrong, or maybe the lawmakers who feel okay, शायद इस पे कुछ होना चाहिए काम.
We haven't thought so much. How do you think so much when all you want to do is tell a story? A beautiful story written with something that needs to be told, reiterated. Now, who picks up what is their personal thing. You cannot say मैं चाहती हूँ. I'm doing what the show is saying don't do.
Right.
It's saying just make people aware. और वो awareness आपको लानी है, ये तो आपकी choice है. तो ये चॉइस आपकी है. आप क्या आप पर इसका असर होता है वो मैं नहीं डिसाइड कर सकती. वी गो एंड वॉच अ फिल्म, आई विल से लिसन यार मुझे वो वाला सीन बहुत अच्छा लगा. जैसे नहीं मुझे ना दूसरा वाला सीन अच्छा लगा. नाउ आई कांट से नो, बट व्हाट आई एम सेइंग वही सही था. नो, I can't say what the audience should be doing. I know for sure that this is going to be a household thing, for sure. I know it's going to create that little thing that needs to be created, be it collectively, be it sitting individually. It's going to make a difference.
How did you master this art of letting go? Because that's very difficult in this line
letting
of
go
work.
of what?
Of the expectation of result, of pressure of that. You haven't, I mean, हमेशा से शायद ये नहीं रहा होगा कि you don't anticipate of how it would be, but now you're more zen about it.
I'm not zen from any angle. No. There was a time when I began, I would look forward to reviews. Somebody would come and praise me. Arey, you were very good, but there was no mention of me in that. And you were very disappointed. Arey, aapne taarif ki to aapne likha kyun nahi? Because you were beginning. There were other things to write about. ठीक है, you were not in that list of being important. But उस time आपको बहुत hurt करता है. फिर धीरे धीरे, I won't say it feels great when people write amazing stuff about the underline, outstanding or something. It feels like one complete circle. It feels gratitude. It feels really nice. But I would be lying if I say it doesn't impact me. It does. But yes, you learn to let go of it in the correct time. वो बड़ा जरूरी है. आप उसको लिंगर करके मैं ये हो गई, अरे आपने ऐसा कैसा कर दिया. No, you felt a certain way, your thing. Maybe somebody else felt something else. So
both, to the positive and the negative, both. I
but
suppose.
Isn't that life?
Yeah,
that is life. You can't be expecting roses all the time.
Of course.
You got to take the thorns as well. And ठीक है, that's life.
In one word, if you had to describe Chiraiya to close it off.
As I think everyone I've met or whoever has seen the trailer, one word that has been most used is goosebumps. And that's what I'd say for it.
I'd say important.
Absolutely important.
Thank you for the time, Divya. And all the best for Chiraiya. I don't think you need all the best here, but I hope that everyone who's watching this watches this when it comes out on March 20th on JioHotstar.
Thank you so much. Thanks.